Hello, Sarah of SEK Handmade here, and y'all, I am so excited to introduce you to my Taos shawl. I'm going to give you all the details on this shawl, but I want to encourage you to stick around to the end because I have my two favorite parts of these videos, a special discount code for you, and a section to show you lots of ways to wear this amazing shawl. Let's start off by talking about the inspiration for this shawl. Last year, I decided that I needed shawls that were inspired by vacation. And this is on two levels. One, I am notorious for going somewhere special, visiting a local yarn shop and purchasing one skein of yarn. And then getting home and being like, what do you do with one skein of yarn? I should have bought two. But because I was at a potentially far away location, I can't just go back and get more of that yarn. So I decided that it was time to design some shawls that I could use my one skein of yarn for and come out with a beautiful wearable project. The other side of that is that I love to take a project with me on vacation, but since one of my main goals on any vacation is to relax, I want it to be a project that's fun, but not too complicated so that I can relax on my vacation. And so that's how the vacation shawls were born, by my own selfishness. When I originally started this, I thought that I would alternate years doing one shawl that was inspired by the ocean and then another shawl the next year that was inspired by the mountains because I can't choose. I love the mountains and the ocean, but I also found out that I can't wait a year to make a pattern I'm inspired to make. So now I'm doing two a year, an ocean and a mountain inspired one, and this is my mountain inspired shawl. It's called the Taos Shawl because of a very special trip that my dad and I took this year. Since my mom passed away, he's been traveling to and from Arizona by car, but he needs somebody to go with him. This year, I flew down to Tucson and drove back to Des Moines, Iowa with him. He had already decided that this was the last year that he was going to take this trip quite like this, and so it was going to be our last drive back across the country together. When I found that out, I was like, we are making the best of this and we are stopping in some great places. And one of the lovely places we stopped was Taos. Let me tell you guys, I had not driven through there even. It is a gorgeous area and I'm so excited to have this shawl to remind me of our very special trip. All right, let's talk about the yarn. Now, I said that these shawls were inspired by purchasing one thing of yarn on a trip, but I did not purchase this yarn on a trip. I did purchase it when there was a sale, and this was the last skein of this yarn, and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I have to have it. When I got it in the mail, I was so thrilled that I had purchased this yarn. It was even more gorgeous than it had looked online. This yarn is by Junie and C. It is the colorway Shining Star, and it is their superwash 3-ply base. It is 75% superwash wool, 25% nylon, and it is 415 yards per 100 grams. I loved working with this yarn as much as I loved staring at it longingly on my yarn shelf. The colorway has so much variation and nuance, even though it's generally this really bold green color. There are pops of oranges and deep reds and like a really deep green and even some teals and blues and pinks every once in a while. Every stitch was a complete joy. Wearing it, it's super soft, lightweight, a really nice bouncy yarn that just made working with it and wearing it fantastic. Highly recommend this yarn. All right, let's talk hooks. It would not be a vacation shawl if you had to have more than one hook, so you don't. You're gonna need a USG 6 4.0mm hook for the whole entire thing. You might also want maybe a couple stitch markers and obviously a tapestry needle to weave in your ends. All right, let's talk customization. Part of the point of these shawls were that you could customize them a little bit so that you could use your one skein of yarn no matter how many yards it had in it. My skein had approximately 415 yards to it. I used almost all of it, and you could absolutely do that too, or you could use a skein that has a little more or a little less and still come up with a really great shawl. There are instructions within the pattern on how to customize and tips on how to get the best use out of the yarn that you have so that, heaven forbid, you don't get to the end and have run out of yarn. I think this would be fun to try with a skein or two of a heavier weight yarn too. I think you could really come out with a beautiful shawl. This shawl has a really fun work as you go border. You can see those little loops at the bottom. And one of my testers had enough yarn left over that she asked if she could come back and single crochet into all of those loops to define them a little more. I said absolutely. And if you have enough yarn left, I think that would be a really fun customization to make. The reason that I didn't just add that into my pattern is because one of the things I'm trying to avoid with the vacation shawls, because it makes them less customizable, is needing to save yarn to the end to make a specific border, because that's really hard to calculate and I don't want anybody to run out of yarn. All right, now it's time for my favorite part, how to wear your shawl. The Taos Shawl is one of, I think, the most wearable shapes you can have. It's got a narrow depth to it and a really, really long wingspan. So let's see. This is the middle. It's long. It just makes it so easily wearable. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start by putting the center at the center of my chest. And then I'm just going to carefully wrap around the edges. I think in this more simple way to wear your shawl, the important thing is keeping all of this flat, because that really makes it lay nicely and you don't end up with a bunch of bulkiness at the back of your neck, which I always think looks funny. So you can just wear it with the ends hanging down to the side. You can wear it close up to your neck. This actually has the top of the shawl folded over, and I think that that helps it stand up a little more, have a little more structure. Of course, you could just drape all of that down as well. Another thing that you can do is you could hide these and make it look almost like a little bandana. So I'm going to take these all the way to the back. I'm going to tie them in a little knot, not a tight knot, and then I'm going to hide them under the fabric that's in the back and zhuzh my front here so that that's all hidden underneath. And I didn't hide that very well. There we go. So that's all hidden underneath, and now it looks more like a bandana. I don't know about you, but I vacationed in the mountains a lot as a child, and I was always thrown off by the fact that it would be really toasty during the day and very chilly at night. So I like that the mountain shawls can be wrapped up around your neck to keep you cozy when it gets chilly at night. Another option would be not hiding these long ends, but tying them in some sort of fashion. You could just loop them over and have a little knot there, or you could even tie them in a little bow. Maybe off to the side would be cute. Tie a little bow off to the side. That's not the best bow I've ever made, but it is kind of adorable. You can see I didn't even my ends out very well either. Let's see if I can do better here. And there you go, cute little bow. And my main part of my shawl just kind of off to the side. You can also loosen all of this up. This is a great way to wear it during the daytime when it's maybe a little warmer. Just pull all of this down so that it's kind of away from your neck and you still have a nice long end here. Again, you could wrap it up around and hide it behind. You could tie a little knot over here and have that hanging off to the side. You can also pull this up through the center and have it hang over the top like that. Easy peasy. Another way to wear a super long shawl like this is to fold it in half, and then you can either wear it so that it shows off this fabric by just wrapping the half around and then easing this down through the center. The key then is to flatten this out so that you see all of that nice fabric and that this runs kind of straight down the side. Gives you kind of an asymmetrical look that's fun. Or you can take it and you can fold your end up so that it ends up a little bit more like a scarf instead of a cowl, instead of a shawl. And then you just wrap it around and you can pull through like we just did. Or this is one of my favorites. You can take one end, pull it through, flip this over, pull the other end through, and you end up with this kind of really fancy looking knot that's actually super easy to make. Another fun way to do this kind of like a scarf is to wrap it around just like you did before, keeping the center in the center. Then you pull this down nice and low. Try to keep your ends kind of even, which I have not done. Then you take this middle, you twist it around and pull your tails up through the middle. It gives it this kind of twisty look with the tails going through the center. I think though one of my favorite ways to wear it is to have it close up to my neck. And I will even sometimes wear this with a sleeveless shirt. So take this, bring it down to my kind of bandana length again. So then I have my neck warm, but I don't overheat because my arms are bare. Then I'm going to take this and I'm going to try to get my ends to be even, which means I'm going to put it off to one side a little bit. Then I'm going to loop this guy with my border facing down. I'm going to bring this guy up and around and make sure it's nice and flat across there to create my bow, and then just turn that down as well. And I have this really cute bow, depending on how floppy you want it to be. You can shorten your ends there. Cute little bow, and then my little bandana underneath. I really love that one. Thank you so much for sticking with me this far. I hope you've loved learning about the Taos Shawl and how to wear it. As promised, I have a very special discount code for you. Use the code VACATION, all caps, to save 20% on the Taos Shawl. So go grab it quick, because that's going to be gone real soon. Thank you again for joining me today. I would love it if you would like this video, subscribe, and maybe even share it with a friend that you'd like to go on vacation with. Thank you again for joining me today, and happy and relaxing crafting.